Hey everyone, thanks for turning up for Fool's Day. Yeah. If you have any interest in dropping a question just as we go, I'm also fine with seeing it. So it's a burning question or whatever that you just want to ask in the moment, just throw up a hand and we can do. But if you're doing it online or whatever, and you want to submit it by either scan that QR code or go into that link, and it just pulls up the little thing on your browser, and you can drop any questions in there. And then a little later, when we get to looking at websites together, um, I'm gonna like spin a little wheel that's gonna autofill the names of anybody who sort of put their entered in their name as like a participant or whatever. And so you would have a chance if you wanted to choose what website we look at together. Uh, and if not, I mean, I'm happy just picking websites at random off of the Chamber of Commerce's directory or anything like that. But if you want to be able to nominate one or pick one to pull up and sort of do a live audit together, log on to that aha slides thingamadoodle. Cool. Well, just a real quick mini kind of backstory context on me. I grew up right down the road from here in Westover. My dad's a farmer. My mom's a retired pediatrician. Um, so, when I try to think of like, okay, how did I get into doing this kind of thing? The first memory that I can think of that possibly relates to this is I remember when I was in elementary school, my parents got their first personal computer. It's like Windows 3.1, Hank and this gentleman over here might be old. I remember Windows 3.1, but it was like early Windows operating system. And I remember as an elementary school kid, first thing I did when I logged on was to go straight to the settings, the control panel type thing. I don't know why that was my instinct, but kind of a foreshadowing, I guess, of what I do. Like my first question was like, yeah, how can I modify this thing? What can this thing do? Can I tweak, all the settings, configuration? Fast forward to maybe 15 years ago, a Sri Lankan, I was living in Baltimore, a Sri Lankan friend of mine who had sort of one-man company doing medical research devices, was applying for a grant and needed a website to support his grant application. He was like, hey, can you help me with that? And I'd never built a website for money before. I tinkered around since my NYU, and other kind of early coding things. But I built a website for his business for he probably paid me $300. But he got the grant, um, and and I liked getting paid, so I continued to do it. Do good work, people talk, and so uh, through word of mouth and whatever else, it grew to the place where it's now my full-time thing. And yes, that's a little context on me, kind of where I'm from. I lived in Baltimore for 15 years, moved back here 2 years ago, and live on the farmhouse on my family farm. Like three yeah, so that's where I'm coming from. But you didn't come to hear that. You came to hear how to build a website that works. So we I just wanted to quick outline like one principle and then three places, the three most important places to apply. Cool. So one principle, three most important places to apply. Don't make. There's actually a book written on that. You ever read that one, Steve Krug? It's a web usability expert named Steve Krug. Actually wrote a whole book called "Don't Make Me Think," and it's about websites. It's about making a good website. And the principle is this: not that your website should be. It's not. So the Lord knows there's plenty of that on the internet, right? The Oxford Dictionary's word of the year last year was brain rot. Uh, brain rot is real. But that isn't what don't make me think means. What don't make me means is that people shouldn't have to think hard about how to use your website. That makes sense? Like, you ever gone to a website and you know it has the information that you seek, that you need, but even if you can find it. I see some heads on, right? Like, it's happened to all of us, right? So that's the principle, is don't make me think. People should not have to think hard about how to use their website, how to use your website. They should just be able to focus on the actual content of what you're offering, whatever that is.
You on the S website comes.
Yeah, shots fired. So, but I'm not saying, I mean, some of that is just some of that. There are ways to like institute, like the bigger an organization gets, the more moving, like the harder it gets to achieve that goal. Really good search functionality is crucial, for any website that gets like as big and complicated as UMS's. I don't know how well search works, but yeah, it's a big challenge. So that's the principle. Don't make me think. Three most important are the three things that get probably 90% of the eyeball time on every website. Anybody take a guess at what they are? So it's not a trick question, right? Like, what parts of a website do you think get the most eyeball time?
Homepage,
Homepage?
about us,
contact us. Right? Yeah, the about page is often the second most viewed page on any site. Weirdly to me, I still don't totally know. Maybe Hank has theories on why that is, but but the homepage is always the most viewed page on any website, because it's the place that people land most often. But there's one area of the homepage that we're even going to zoom in on within the homepage, and then two parts that are universal across the entire site. So the first section of the homepage, which I call, you can call it whatever, but like that first section that you see when you open a website. So somebody just shout out any URL, any like popular website.
UMESperch.com.
PERCH.com.
Yep.
Okay.
I love your feedback on it.
Cool. All right. So the three sections, like this first section of whatever is touchscreen.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Or it's connected now. Okay, that's fine. Oh, connected. Yeah, it's all good. So the three areas that get so much of people's attention. The first is, I call it the hero section. It's basically whatever loads at in the first section of your homepage. That's the first thing people see, right? Everybody's going to see that. But the other two areas that we're going to spend some time looking at is the header. The header refers to like the part at the top of your website that appears across all your pages, unless you deliberately hide it on certain pages, right? So the header, that's your sort of top navigation area. A lot of time there, right? And actually, get down to the bottom. Like, you ever open a website and basically scroll straight to the bottom, try to look for if you got like Austin, if you're looking for contact details or for some other specific thing. A lot of people do that, right? Put on a website and they'll like, if they don't see that in the first like section right there, they'll just go straight to the bottom, look for it there. So I'm going to take you through. We're just going to look at some sites together, and I'm just going to live commentate, and you guys can ask questions and we can talk about ways that we can apply this principle. Don't make me think, right? To the header, the hero section, and the footer. Sound good? All right. Well, shoot, you want us to do it with UMESperch?
Yeah. I mean, it's only under development, but absolutely.
That's great. All right. So the first section, the big question that the first section of any website should answer, because you don't know where people are coming from, right? When they land on it, could be coming from all kind of different places. That's the challenge of the homepage, right? It's sort of the tasting menu for the rest of the website. But here in this first section, like, it needs to be obvious what you do and how to get it, right? There's a lot of, I can't tell you the number of websites I've, I've looked at or worked on that don't do either do how to get like that's cool, especially if it's a cool image, right? But what do I do? What do you do? And so this is nice, right? You got this like 1-2 of header and subheader text. The perch, I mean, I figure if I'm on a site called umesperch.com, that's probably relevant. But that maybe doesn't even need to be right. That actually could be up here. Because it's kind of the title of the board, right? And now this, right, where businesses take flight, that to me seems a little more like a kind of a right? If the person had tagline, the person's tagline. Right. So that's a great place for a tagline, unless it's too cluttered. I personally like I get the metaphor. I like it. Your beats clever every time. And so it may even be worth thinking about, like maybe this is like a little bit called like an eyebrow line, right? Above, like a bigger banner. How would you actually yeah. Inspiring entrepreneurs to very that's a generation statement, right? Like, is there a 6-word or less super plain language version of that you can have right in the first section? So that somebody who lands on UMES who's still not totally sure you get it like that. The guy, the grunt test, right? Many of those Geico caveman commercials. You remember those? I don't know if they're even still doing those, right? But the could a literate cave land on the homepage on the first section of the homepage and in 2 grunts get what is it you do and how to get it, right? So what you do, super plain language. You can have like a longer kind of tagline under that, with smaller text or whatever if you want, but like the headline needs to be crystal clear. And then just an action, right? So what you do and how to get it, right? So what you do is here. That's here. We could play with the language stuff to try to make it clearer and tighter. But what's missing here? Tell me. What do you do? How to get it? Which one is missing? Yeah, how to get it. How to interact with the perch. The only clear sort of call to action that I see in this whole first section is that support the perch, which would be a donation. Make donation. But my guess is you also want actual like entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs to reach out, right?
Eventually.
Yeah. Okay, not yet. All right. So that's why you don't have.
We don't have it yet. The only thing we need right now is money.
There we go. Right here, and what's the actions like give to support, again, we're not going to workshop the specific language, but you want to have 1 or 2. I mean, it sounds like you kind of have two lanes of engagement, right? You're wanting to aspiring entrepreneurs, people want to support time, like donate time or money or that sort of thing. So maybe eventually that's your 2 call to action buttons here, right? It's like get help with a business idea, help others start their business. I don't know, right? And then those link out to sort of your big page for entrepreneurs, your morning page for those. Make sense? All right, let's look at the header for a minute. So here's the UMES Center for Entrepreneurship logo. Can anyone read that? No, not here. Guess what? Not on most displays either. I get that this is like the official logo and the big, whatever, but it wouldn't be a bad idea to develop or create another right? Because this looks great on a 3-inch sticker. It doesn't look so great 100 pixels high on somebody's phone.
Mm.
And the majority of web traffic is going to be on, right? I mean, that just goes without saying. It's been the case for years. So as you're designing any site, always, 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 at least look at the mobile view. If not, design for the mobile view primarily, and worry about the desktop, most like platforms and stuff are totally mobile responsive now, so that's going to be like a problem for most people. But some, depending on how they work, or kind of desktop first, sort of how they design it, so you really want to look at the mobile view. But yeah, this is the. I mean, this is the. Um, I know that's almost not fair, right, to critique this, but
No,
like,
we get you going.
but yeah, but you're navigating here, right? It's super important. Because people are gonna see that no matter what gets thrown. Right? So it's gotta have options, but not too many. I caution folks away from having one of the 4 or 5 items in their level header nav, just because you don't want to overwhelm people with options. You want to kind of. C.S. Lewis once said that writing is like herding sheep down a road, right? If you leave any side, they will wander. They'll like just wander off, right? And writing through the internet, the same way, right? So being really thoughtful about how you have your header navigation set up. Often it looks like then maybe you organize things into some drop downs. So you've got some drop down menus that are sort of your major sort of lanes or buckets of what you do or what you offer. But kind of keeping the header, the top level header items shorter side. Maybe have a way of getting to everything on your website, but don't you don't cross this top bar. And you actually have 10 offering, you're a publicly traded multinational. None of us are there. So keeping it super simple. And I like this search bar, right? Because generally speaking, in terms of browsing behavior, you've got your clickers and your scrollers. You've got your people who want to try to find their way through, through your site navigation and that kind of thing. And you got other people who are going to want to go straight to the search bar, and other people who are just going to scroll until they find what they want. Great here. I mean, with as little as you have in your header nav, I think it could even be just one bar. I don't know if the platform you built this on enables that, but I could totally see a situation where you've got a smaller, like a simpler, smaller, and like a site title here, so whatever. And you've got your site nav and search bar, and then I'm guessing this is like user accounts and cart checkout.
Eventual.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah.
Since you're trying to balance between the scrollers and
I'm not trying to have options for both, right? Yeah.
so I'm always wondering, do you put all your information as much as possible on the front page and on multiple pages you can search, or do you how do you do that?
So in general, your homepage should be like, right? My wife went with a friend of hers who's getting married this summer. They went to like a tasting. You ever been to one of these where like a wedding caterer is giving you like a little bit of all the different dishes they do? Decide which one you want to actually serve at your wedding. Sounded like I was invited. That's what you want your homepage to be, kind of a taster menu for what your site has on offer as a whole. You can make it simpler and more complex than that. There's a lot of different ways you can go with it, but my general advice, right, is have those deeper pages, have those pages like specific pages or product pages or whatever. And go deeper on the thing by all means. I mean, that's good for humans and it's good for search engine optimization. You could have a one-page website and everything would just be in one long scroll, and you could have index links that slide you down to that part, and that could work potentially depending on the complexity of your business, the user experience. But from a search engine sense, it's always a good idea to have like specific service pages for the things, but you link out to that. So again, for your scrollers, they can scroll through the whole homepage, and by the time they get to the footer, have a pretty good idea of the different things you offer, and they can go out to one of those things or not. Make sense? Let's look at. All right. So, and actually, this is a great example of a tasting menu type section, right? So you've got like I love it. This is exactly the kind of thing I was talking about. So you've got this little. The other thing I like about this is that your files aren't all just learn. Like the placeholder copy is the death of attention. All right. Yeah.
So the only thing that bothers me is they're very dark.
Sure.
They
That's
have
because you need to overlay to
Yeah.
make this white text pop.
Okay.
You can do it in this direction. You can do like light overlay and have black text. You know, but that's just a design decision that needs to be kind of part of the whole principle. Yeah, I like this. And then you got news. All right. Twitter. You go to the channel. Anyways,
You could go to your e-commerce site.
okay, gotcha. That's probably a good choice then. Shopify's excellent for you. So here's the footer. And we can have, I can get a little more critical here. I mean, I know you're just building it out, right? But if you're keeping your header nav more streamlined and kind of focused on the main actions that you want to be taking, your footer is the place to go in depth, right? And then build out like a lot of navigation links and contact info and all that kind of stuff. Because again, I think we've all done it at some point. You people get to the footer for one or two reasons. They find what they were looking for, and a built out navigation serves both of those purposes. That makes sense? Like you've got it's why if we go to like let's I mentioned that one. Let's load them up. I mean, they have great design in general. They're not a great, like exemplar for small business because they've just got so much going on. But you go down to the footer, like, okay, this is all legal crap that lawyers made them put in, right? But look at this footer now, right? It's got and this isn't even everything that they do, right? But this is their attempt to serve the people who are scrolling all the way to the bottom.
I noticed a lot of companies that really want you to just go through electronic access to whatever, AI or whatever. Okay. Hide the contact. It's hard to find a phone number.
Okay,
Until you get to the bottom.
sure.
Then you have to dig for it.
Yeah, I mean, and that depends on their customer service strategy, philosophy, and approach, and that kind of thing. I mean, I generally advise against unless they really want to. I advise them against listing their bare naked email in the footer of their website, just because then it gets picked up by spam bots. I mean, there's constantly crawling the public internet, gobbling up email, feeding them into going to list bulk mail lists. That makes sense. So it's not a bad idea to send people through a contact form that then fires to your email. The more important thing, be responsive. So, like, right, it's a way of respect.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your business, right? Yeah, and if you're cool with just picking up the phone, and so for random call, all of that.
We speak with our clients. Are you willing to take a phone call prospect? If they are, we do it at the top so that when they go on the it's right there.
Exactly.
But if they're somebody is weird to me. But
Right.
then okay, great, put it on the contact.
Yeah.
I have a website for you to look at that has no phone number if you want.
Nice. What's that?
It was hell.
Okay, I'm sorry. Hank does similar work too.
I don't build websites.
Okay.
I don't want to build websites. You build websites.
You have 1-800 my app, right? So Apple has a phone. But yeah, I mean, and there's even different cool ways to to highlight that. I mean, in general, you want to do business with as possible.
Do they have the numbers there? Actually, my Apple, or do they make you look for the letters?
They make you look for the letters.
Oh, that's so.
Although tell link
Okay.
that opens the actual.
Right.
So on the phone number thing, this is just a little detail, but like you can browsers, some browsers convert any phone number. But you can't rely on that. There's just like a web link starts with https:// there's other protocols for other kinds of links, and you know about our SMS. So if you create a TEL and then your phone number, people can tap on that on their phone, and it loads it right up in their phone's dialer. Same thing with SMS: and then your phone number. And there's even and you can find online tools that'll help you generate code. You can even make an SMS link or an email could click to email link, pre-populate email with some text, so whatever text you kind of go down that you want, but it's a fun little usability tip. That's a tell link, which means it won't work on this because I don't have this associated with the phone number and yada yada. But on a mobile browser, I can tap that and it would load it up in my dialer instantly. Yeah.
And you said about not putting the email box, spam box will get you, etc. Are you saying not include the header at all? Click up, you have to go to a page to get to it, or is that not that?
I mean, the most common way I'll do it is set a web, very web. Don't require people to fill out more fields on forms. They need to interact with them. I would say a contact page, just change email. What's this out? Type thing, and that fires through to me as an email. So it's that my email is not listed publicly on the website. It's not that it's impossible to find. People to find, but it's my preferred because I want to expose it to spam bots is to send it through a contact form, and then I reach back out directly via email to the person who filled it out. That's people have different philosophies. Spam filters. I mean, you got less spam recently than you did years ago. Thanks, crying. I actually, another little fun side note. How are we doing for time, Good. This is just a random side thing. I shifted my personal email over from, I was using Proton Mail, which is a security first sort of email option. It's a great free secure email alternative to Gmail. Gmail is just slide all your crap. If you're up for paying a few bucks, this is a really cool sort of email bot from the ground up. It's called hey.com. And one of the things that they do is it's kind of like reverse spam. Every time somebody emails you, lands it into the screen. And you get to go through and decide, do I ever want to hear from this person again or not? And if not, you click no. And all of any future emails from them will go to the screener. You can still, there's spam, things to spam, that kind of thing as well, if you want down the line. But I liked it. I like a lot of things about how they designed this email product. But yeah, that was fun. All right, let's look at a couple of questions. Yeah, so footer, you want to really build out your footer, a much footer menu. If your top menu was drop downs, in your footer menu, you build it out. I mean, I'll just go real quick, an example of this. I didn't do the site. I helped redesign. I didn't build it from scratch, but I came in and helped them streamline it some, right? And so they're based over in Annapolis. They do a lot of swim lessons for adults and kids, all kinds of swim training, water stuff. They do a lot of things. You know, they've said made this a lot more words than I had advised them to make it, so that's okay. But if you see what they got here in their header nav is drop downs, right? For all the different types of services they offer. And then here's sort of the junk drawer pages. And they've got pretty powerful search functions, right? That folds in, from all across their site. Right? See how that now spread the footer. Right? And again, they've got a lot going on, right? But here's basically their header navigation, like all the drop downs are now like individual links as well that somebody can scan or read through. And they have the pools, right? So the addresses and the directions links are there for each one of those. And there's a clickable telephone number, right? Their general hours and their socials or whatnot. There's another this is the main. Well, what's the main thing they want you to do? They want you to sign up for their class. There's your rest. So that's right here. That's right here. This just rolls you down to the next section. But then that call to action button is featured prominent.
Before you leave this site, can you
Yeah.
go to the upper left-hand corner? Is that what you mean about the logo? Because it looks really good there.
You mean this?
Yeah.
Yep. So that's readable, right? And let's look at mobile view, see how it looks. On a Chrome-based computer, you can right-click, go to inspect, and you can choose from lots of devices here to like simulate the device width. There's apps and stuff that you can do this with. So one that I actually use for ground testing, the study build it's free. It's just a free app. You can download it. You can put any URL into this. So what was it? UMES Perch, right? Is that the one we were looking at? Yeah. So you can see kind of, how it shows up more or less on different size. These are just settings that I like. I like to look at it on like a smaller phone, bigger phone, kind of standard laptop size. And then down here, I've got an iPad, which is much less common, honestly, in terms of like web browsing. But yeah, so you can navigate on one view. It also sort of keeps with you on the others, so you can sort of simultaneously see. But you can do like the simple version of it right here. Now, here's the thing most people forget about, which is that, on most Google sites, whatever you have up here in your navigation, once you go to mobile, that disappears behind, some kind of amber command, which is what people call, like two bars or sometimes sign guys. But all those, any calls to action or any things that you had there are now hidden behind that. So somebody who lands on the mobile site, they're just going to see, they're not going to see all the cool stuff you got in your nav, unless you got it set up. There are some sites you can have like an overline or something that maybe has your business contact info, and that's persistent. That shows, regardless of the name. But it just underscores how that percent, right? Because that's the thing that everybody. And then of course on mobile, because things resize or restack, then this sort of slides up a little higher than it does on the others, which is actually useful, right? For mobile, because then a quick orientation to the business. Let's see. All right. Let's how are we doing for time? Like how much time? Okay. But look at some of these questions. Let's do this. Portia asked, what's the best way to start out a business to ensure consistent growth while still being true to your vision? That's a much bigger question. I mean, I feel like that's an entrepreneur question. It's a great question.
You can ask for it last.
I mean, my gut, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it because I don't feel like I'm like some kind of entrepreneurship expert, but like just knowing what your business is and like knowing what you're trying to do and the growth part makes it easy. Because a lot of people have passions to do X, Y, or Z, but if the world doesn't need that passion, willing to pay money for it, it's going to be an uphill battle. But if you can find where your passion and the world's need meet, that's the sweet spot right there. And the true vision thing is just knowing what your values are and being willing to say no to work that doesn't fit in it. I before I start a project of website, because I mean website, my job is basically making them look good, right? Like making them look like they got their stuff together. And I actually try to, as best I can, I try to vet companies before I agree to work because I don't want to spend energy making this look good. I mean, they're great, right? I only probably turn down 5% of the potential clients who come to me, for this reason. And I'm not a jerk about it, but like first step is looking at all the reviews online, right? The customers perceiving. But if possible, like talking to people, especially around here, like people know people, so I can kind of do my due diligence and try to understand, how is this person treating their vendors, whatever. And if I don't feel confident that they're at least on like a basic level of decency, I'm gonna pass on the project because I don't want to put my name behind that. Does that make sense? And that looks different, in every, like the specifics of sort of your values and stuff, may express a little different there. But that's, walk away money, is the is the hard, but I believe true part of that. Knowing where to start and grab the attention of my target audience. Somebody asked on the little survey that Kevin sent out. I mean, I've seen and just what we talked about, like where pieces of real estate are. Like if you do nothing else, like don't squander what you do up in your header, what you do down your footer, and then what you do in that first section of your website. Because that's like the three things that pretty much everybody's gonna see. And so if you nail those, even if you bumble your way through the rest of it, like I don't know if it's the 80-20, the 80-20 rule, like what's that even mean? Is it the 10% that makes 80%?
80% of your revenue comes from 20% of your advance. But it's a Pareto's principle, but it applies to lots of things.
Yeah. Yeah. The big idea is that 20% of the work produces 80% of the result.
And likewise, 80% of your problems come from 20.
Yes. But if you start with those three sections and make them as clear and compelling as you can. Yeah, I think that's where to start. Deborah, is Deborah here? Can you elaborate on what's the kind of experience such a who's looks?
So when you go to someone's webpage, there's where you can tell who looks. They type or they might type
So like a reaction to a
yeah,
social post?
yeah. Yeah, but sometimes you can't see who did that.
Right.
Yeah.
This has to do with what she said,
Oh,
right? Of whatever the app is and what not reach time theoretically, right? To some amount of privacy.
oh,
And the same is true of website analytics, analytics, right? I mean, your standard website analytics are things like, how many views is each page getting? How many unique visitors, which is like a small number, the number of views, because like people look at a website more than once. Things like bounce rate just means how many people come to one page of your website and then, right? Uh, that's inevitably like, usually a pretty much number because not everything's for everybody, and there's all kinds of people are distracted on the internet. Imagine that.
But
But
sometimes you get those, I guess, advertisers or want to be on the page and be advertising something they want to do. You can't get them off.
I mean, there's ad blockers.
Yeah.
So on some browsers have ad blocking plugins that will try to block some of those third-party ad scripts and stuff and kind of reduce the visual clutter on the ad-driven website. And I run this thing on sheets because I ain't got time for that crap. But those, if you really look on a first website and then also ask the shoe be around. So that's and it's just a super common strategy because when you visited that sneaker site, they had Google Analytics, maybe Facebook's tracking pixel installed on their website, and it does a little backdoor handshake with your Google login and your Facebook login in your browser. If you logged into your Google account in your Facebook browser, and so now that they're running the ad campaigns that they have set up on Google AdSense, which is what like websites like weather.com or obviously Facebook and Insta, like ads in here. They have retarget campaigns. It's not so it's personal scale and speaking, but that's like how big sections of the e-commerce internet run. And so that's why that's happening. But if you don't install either the pixels on your website, then you're not feeding that beast. Now, if there are legitimate like retargeting is a strategy because it can work, right? And so if you're an e-commerce business, you may want to look into it. But if you don't have a business reason to be sending that data back to Google, Facebook, don't install that stuff on your site. You're just giving them, people's data for free. Personal opinion. How did you learn digital marketing skills, certification, degree, etc.? Self-taught. Nothing wrong. Degree certifications or that kind of thing. But the end goal is what? Functional knowledge. Right? It's like, can you do stuff? So, first, like, around with it. Step and just start experimenting. Or, if you're more of like you want to have the structure of kind of something walking you through it, like find there's plenty of amazing quality like step-by-step tutorials on YouTube you can find totally for free. And the other thing, I mean, with web design, like stuff, there's often actually really good forums here and there. So the video tutorials is one way to get at it, but there's also often also like if you're trying to mess with code snippets or that kind of thing, like if you search for the specific type of thing you're trying to do, chances are like there's already a conversation thread about it somewhere in some public internet forum where you can get the code snippet, you can get the breakdown and figure out how to do it. That's still how I learned today. I'm in forums with other web designers, developers, and got YouTube channels I like that I subscribe to, and I just stay current. We talked about Deborah's thought. How to go about creating a web. Well, you need two things really. You need domain and you need hosting. Domain is like hosting is like the land, and domain is like the address. That's probably not a perfect analogy. There's uh, Actually, no, maybe hosting is like the structure itself. Hosting would be like the house, and the domain is like the land where you put the house. Uh, so domains, which that, yeah, exactly, and that comes with the address and all that. Yeah, thank you. Um, so you can get a domain from any domain registrar, except GoDaddy, because GoDaddy sucks. Don't give them any business.
Actually, even,
Yeah,
and is there a reason you don't want to search for your URLs there?
GoDaddy is also into like doing prospecting. Like, you know, both Hank and I know people who have a particular domain name on GoDaddy, and it was available. And then when they went, but they didn't buy it. And then when they went to buy it later, it bought, and you could rebuy it from, you know, someone
Someone.
on
Someone.
so screw GoDaddy. But you know, there's other great domain registrars out there. An indie one that I like is porkbun.com. I'm not kidding. They're really great, and they have very human and responsive customer service.
You said,
POR.com, great price too. Spaceship.com is a new kind of offshoot of Namecheap. That's also really nice and really easy to use. So you buy your domain name, and then you need to get hosting, and that gets a little more complicated depending on sort of where or how you want to build a website, right? So if you wanted to build a website using WordPress, most popular sort of website content management systems, you can have that hosted almost any, you know, that will do most hosting companies will offer relatively simple WordPress hosting. Yeah, and then so you hook up your domain, your WordPress hosting, you're good to go. If you're building using a builder like Squarespace or Wix, or there's tons of others out there, that the builder includes the hosting. And so you don't have to buy hosting separately. Like you pay for the hosting when you pay for a subscription to build a site with the builder. But either way, you know, regardless of how you're doing it, so Shopify is actually a builder, a platform, e-commerce centric. It's great for e-commerce. Trickier for other types of businesses. But like, your domain and you link it to your shop. There you go. That's your website. Yeah.
I was asking around about web pages. A lot of people refer me to GoDaddy. I use GoDaddy.
They refer it wrong.
There's
They spend a lot of money on that.
they, they, so when you register a domain with GoDaddy, they trick you for domain privacy to keep registration details private. It's like table stakes these days. They registered domain. Just
I'll look at your soapbox.
thank you. All right, so that's super basics. In terms of beginning website creator sites to use, it kind of depends on businesses and what you need to do, right? The I mentioned WordPress, and WordPress is incredibly flexible and extensible. It's probably the most flexible platform out there. It's not always the simplest to start with. So, your facility with tech, you're kind of how much time you're willing to devote to it. I'll mention. Let's see. I think I made. With it. Okay, so I occasionally make little videos on YouTube. Basically, if I end up having a long conversation with a client about something, I'm like, maybe this, you know, maybe other people are having these questions. So maybe, but this is a video I made earlier this year comparing four platforms: Squarespace, which is like a general purpose sort of website builder; Kit, which is primarily an email marketing software, but they have like some website functionality; Podia, which is more geared towards online courses; and there's a new one called Stan that is, that's trying to make, it's not a website builder in the traditional sense, but they're trying to make basically like a really easy to use platform for digital creators and entrepreneurs. And so it includes like a simple course builder. It includes like a simple calendar scheduler, an email list, a newsletter builder, a lot of things like here. And I talk about this in the video, but like if you end up stacking up a lot of these things, it gets expensive quick. And it's possible to build out a lot of these things on a WordPress site, but can be pretty complicated. And so if you don't getting into the hairy details of a full-blown site, something like this might be a great option. Or if you just need a very one-page site, almost like a digital business card, like kind of a landing page for now. I really like card. It's $20 a year. And it's they give you these a simple sort of WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get builder. The ability to do like forms, you hook it to your custom domain. There's no brand, just clean. I use that I'll show you one for that.
So if
Yeah.
you were, and I look at that, I think, wow, there's something we want to test.
Yeah.
An idea.
Yeah.
Would that that looks like it would be a really good place to test an idea.
Fantastic.
Because it's not connected to anything else we do.
Yep. And so you can have it on a domain. So like I built this is a cool little shoestring nonprofit in Snow Hill. I do a few like free nonprofit builds a year for just like scrappy little, grassroots nonprofits, no staff, hardly any budget, and they don't have money, to most of them don't even have like a PayPal donate link yet or something like that. So I can help them get set up with like nice, clean, like donation, simple like donation software or whatever. But this is a site I built them one card. It's just one page, right? Simple scroll, it's clean.
Does it support video?
Yeah, you can embed, they don't post video, but you can embed a video from anywhere. And so here at the bottom, it's got like the donate option, the contact form.
That's spectacular.
That's the whole thing, right? And card is, again, they've got like 50 different templates or whatever you can choose as a starting point, and you swap your own info in, connect it to your domain, Jesus. And that's that's $20 a year. A domain should be 20 or less a year, unless you get some ending, that costs a lot. If you're really rare vanity, URL or whatever. If you're feeling weird, I'm old enough to remember, the days when the internet wasn't just like a big dumb mall, and there were, like people doing a lot of like really bizarre creative stuff on it. It's mmm.page, like and so that's where I, created like a little, like personal site that links to my different properties. Like you can click on that Chomps jerky stick for this mug, and then for accessibility, there's like actual links, to all the different things I do. But that's on, I Vic Vic King domains were taken, so I was casting them everything real short that had my name in it. That was what I said.
So tell me something.
Yeah.
I've always wondered I know the big guy who did GoDaddy.
Yeah.
How, as a legal matter, how does he own that? And what's the whole process? I know there's probably a long story.
What do you mean? How does he own GoDaddy?
How can he own that versus, I don't mean the company, his company.
Yeah. Oh, GoDaddy is what's called a domain registrar.
Right.
Which means there's an international organization called ICANN that oversees the whole domain registry process. It's a bunch of legal. But basically, there's hundreds of registrars, like there's hundreds of companies that are registered with ICANN to be able, they don't own domains themselves. They're just a registrar. I mean, kind of like the university has a registrar, right? Which, what does that mean? They manage payments and stuff, right? It might not be the same. A domain registrar, is a company that is authorized by ICANN to to allow people to register domains. And ownership is even a bit of a misnomer, right? Because you're basically renting it. You own it for as long as you're paying for it. You're not paying for it, the registration expires, becomes available. And pro tip, if you have kids or end up having kids someday, see if you can see if the .com of their first and last name is available.
It's a great baby shower tip.
For them all. It's a great baby shower gift too. For if you're putting the name out there, like get them the first name last name .com of their kid's name if it's available. Pay for it's $10 a year. $180, and you paid for it birthday. Then they can take it then if they want or whatever.
And so that, Pam knows this,
Yeah.
in the NIL, name, image, likeness for
Yes.
athletics.
Yeah.
The first thing they suggest the players do is make sure you own your,
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. A little different, similar.
Yeah.
Similar kind of mindset. But yeah. Useful websites kind of my skills in digital marketing. Good start websites, learn how to create websites. I mean, again, it kind of depends on what sort of niche or sort of app you want to. Which, YouTube is the one that I've spent the most time on. But if you're looking for something more structured, I wouldn't know because I haven't used. I don't know. I haven't used like a structured beginner or start out that way now. In the weeds of more obscure.
Shopify.
Yeah.
I need to learn basics.
Most platforms, whether it's Shopify, WordPress, Squarespace, have like platform specific documentation that's often really good. Like I would start the documentation for the platform that you want to learn. Start with their core stuff, and if it's not meeting your needs or it's not the vibe or the pace or the style of teaching that you're looking for, then go to YouTube, and see if it gets out tutorial or that kind of thing. Try to find something that fits your learning. But yeah, the documentation to the platform itself is always a great first place to start. If I was creating a portfolio website, what's the best outline to set it up? Should I still have a header and footer? And if so, how should it look? Yes, you should still have a header and footer. Portfolio site look like yes. Yeah, you definitely still wanted to have a header and footer, and maybe you split it into projects or types of work, or portfolio site is a pretty get creative with it, but again, here beats collaborate. Yeah, but so having a work section divided into types of work or projects or whatever way that the kind of people who are looking for the kind of work, again, put yourself in the mind frame of your client, right? Where you're the viewers of this website, and what's the path that you're leading them there. You know what I mean? Super clear and straightforward. How do you differentiate yourself as a digital marketer? By being me? I don't know. Like like everybody has their own personality and angle and skill set, and that's like maybe it sounds like don't be. There's Hank's great at being Hank. Most days, and I uh, I do the best work you can to try to serve people well, and if you do good work, people, and it's okay to ask too, right, for referrals and that kind of thing. Like you know, if you did some good work for somebody, they're really happy with it, say, hey, you know, is there anybody else who they could use my skill set or use, you know, that I could help them out? If you like working with them, tell them, hey, you know, who's like it.
And get a video to get on that same level, get a video testimonial from, 'em and put that on your.
Yeah.
For younger entrepreneurs, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They gravitate more to different kinds of platforms as opposed to traditional websites.
I mean, social media is huge, right? But most people aren't taking action. I mean, something happens after that, right? Like social media for traffic, or what happens after the traffic. So I'm about to launch a site tonight for these luxury. I'm trying to guess. Um, so these folks are they're luxury travel concierge. So they are travel agents for super high net worth individuals. The guy who dropped 10 grand a night on a hotel. Um, and so, you know, most of their sort of traffic to their website comes from their Instagram, a huge Instagram account, you know, 2K followers or something. And so because people like luxury travel stuff. I mean, that's fun to look at, right? Um, but what happens next, right? Well, most people can't afford them, right? To actually hire them as agents. They develop travel guys, you know, digital download that are affordable, right? Not cheap, but affordable that like spills their secrets. Some of them, right? And so anybody can buy those. But then if they've got, you know, but then for their, you know, of course, most of their income comes from few, you know, clients. And so everything else about the site, you know, again, if you can't afford them, but you're just lurking, well, here's the secondary call to action, right? You can buy, but everything is right. Mask any personal info except their name and email. You know, they can work out all the other stuff later. But then, you know, just basic level sort of orientation to the conversation, I think. Social can be great for now, again, you're guiding people on the journey. You know, and for most people, the website is sort of the hub of their digital marketing field. Like all roads, you know, social, search, you know, all roads kind of you need to get a yeah, sure, yeah. So that I mean, best way to promote your website for social media. I mean, some social media platforms let you have a unique link in the post that's clickable or whatever, and that's great. But for the don't just gotta have do like link your bio stuff or whatever. Although it's a doing but, yes. You can build a page on website. It's like just a hidden page. You know, the same stuff they can buy it to, but then it's branded with your URL instead of saying environment. What IDs or platforms do you use to create websites personally and for clients where you also just creating versus templates? I love a good template, right? Because then it does a lot of the short you still got to come up with good copy, good imagery. You're gonna tweak and refine the design to fit the vibe of the specific vibe of the client or the business that it's for. But I mean, I started designing my own templates too and selling. So I do a lot on Squarespace shop from my main three, but also I mean Carter. I've done card sites for tiny clients who don't need anything that they want to have all the fluff features and full. Any other questions? Thanks for putting up with me. My email's there. if you ever wanna reach out, happy to talk more. And the chat